All right. Well, welcome to the Monsters in the Mirror podcast. It has been a minute since we've done one of these episodes. I think I looked at Dustin, and it was like last July that we recorded our last
Holy
one. So it's
smokes.
been it's been a while. So it's good to get back. Good to get back. We've been kind of quiet on the internet and well everywhere. We haven't been on the stage. We haven't been really anywhere publicly since July, and a lot's happened since then. So we've had a couple member changes. We've had a couple new songs released. We're working on some new stuff right now. So actually, a lot in the works.
hmm
Um, that's all really exciting stuff.
I think the last
So
thing that
that's
we've
what's going on.
the last thing that we've done like release wise is like we released the songs and then we did live streams with them. And then the
Yep.
last live stream we did, we had to delete immediately afterwards because I don't know. We didn't know we were
Yeah, we had
live.
some. We didn't know we were live, and we recorded way too early, and we had to we had to take it down. So no worries, no
Yeah.
worries. But anyways, that's not gonna happen again because now we know. So, but yeah, so we are here today to basically give a just a band update, and introduce a new member. So everyone, welcome Ian Yadalum. I get it right?
Yeah, it's close enough. It was close enough. It's a doozy.
Why don't you introduce yourself then?
Ian Fiedlum. I'm the hopefully the new rhythm guitarist for Monsters in the Mirror. It's been great past couple months getting to know these guys, so I'm pretty stoked for what we have in store. A lot to look forward to.
You can play all the songs for the live set, right?
Yep, we're all
So
good to go, and I've been
Talked about it. We just talked about
repping the
this
victim.
yesterday.
so you're the member. There's no hopefully.
Good.
It's official.
If you can play
It's
the
official.
songs in the live set, I mean that's what we need from our members.
Yeah.
So boom.
For sure.
Oh, so Ian, new rhythm guitarist, and we haven't actually. This will be the official announcement, I guess, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again. But Vince has decided to take a step back from the band, so he is still active and involved on the recording and sound engineering side. He's still producing, recording, putting together all of our songs. So very, very important key role. But he stepped back from playing live with us and practicing and songwriting. So he's more of a background role now. It's just some balance he needed in his life, and he decided that the whole music, especially live music thing, was he got his fill of it. So maybe he'll be on at some point in the future to talk more about that. But
That's a good idea.
we have not had him at practice since January. So really, when the year closed, Vince sort of took a step back, and I was just Van Halen in it for a few months there, just lone wolf, only guitar, Dimebag Darrell, whatever you want to call it, and we were just getting by, and that was fine. But MITM has always the music, and especially more so in the past year or so, has always been designed and intended to be a two guitar band. So
Hmm.
I knew that I wanted to have to be able to just play lead guitar and bring a rhythm guitarist in, so I didn't have to do everything, and I could just focus on being a good lead guitarist. So I met this clown at work about a year ago, um, who this just weird like hippie looking dude, long hair and whatever. Actually, I think you cut it by then. But
Yeah.
this nerdy engineer who like moved into a sales position, and maybe that honestly that gives you more street cred because that shows you can work with people. You're not like in office space where they have all the engineers like locked back in the corner, which is kind of how it is where we work.
For sure.
And
For sure.
they have the engineering liaison where he like has to talk for the engineers to like all the people. They actually have a specific position for that because the engineers can't like talk to people. Well, Ian's not that. Ian can do it all. Ian's pretty cool. So found him at work and found out that he played guitar. We were in this little event together, and one of the things in the icebreaker event at the beginning of the week was basically write down a interesting fact about yourself or something that you've always wanted to do. And he
Yeah.
wrote up there, I've always wanted to play guitar professionally.
Mhm.
And I walked into the room and I saw that and it was like, oh, I didn't even know you play guitar. Like I I do that. Like that's cool. So that sort of we hit it off there a little,
And
just
this was back in
passively.
June, right? June
Yeah, this
or
is
May or June of last year.
almost a year ago.
Yep.
So
So then that's
and
funny.
then it
Sorry to interrupt, but that something I was thinking
go for it.
about. So if you think about the timeline of everything, so like you said, Vince left in like January, and it wasn't until June that that kind of sparked, and then here we are in May. Like it's been like half a year for each one of these steps. And I was thinking when we were talking about Vince, it's kind of connected to what we talk about all the time as a band. We always talk about this pyramid where we balance life and career and all that stuff, and like and staying power of bands. And I feel like we're really, with Vince wanting to step back. Initially, it kind of, I think he even kind of said like, guys, I gotta be done. Like, and it was him trying to find balance because he's got his career's taken off. He's got this family that he's taking care of and everything, and so he's trying to find balance. And at first, it felt like he needed to step out, but we're all about trying to, like, as a band, trying to find where does this fit for each member, where maybe it doesn't have to be Vince quitting completely. Maybe it can just be taking a step back. And because the reality is, this whole time Vince has been coming to practices, coming to these band meetings, all that kind of stuff, while also recording, tracking, doing all that stuff. And so that's my first point, is it's cool that we could take that step to make it work for Vince. But then the second point is like, if you look at the pacing of how things happen, it is so slow. And I'm sure we'll talk about this more in a few minutes, but like, we've been in this writing recording mode for a long time, just trying to find somebody to play shows. So with that in mind, we have to try to keep people if we can. And then the people that we bring on have to be solid, because, like, it's so hard to find somebody. So Ian, you're solid. We're glad to have you. And I'm glad that all of us definitely feel that he's going to be here in a year. Like, we don't feel scared about anything. So that's a relief.
That's good. I feel like I'm truly letting my career hemorrhage to be in this band and giving up all of my my personal life. I'm kidding. No. I'm living the as these guys said, the pyramid at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about balance, and I think there's days where you can't fit any music in, and that's okay, as long as there's the days that you can fit a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But
and there might
I agree with you.
And there might even be periods of weeks where you can't do a lot of music stuff. There might even be, months. It could be a rough quarter. Like, there's all those things can come up, and it's like my boss at work always says, over communicate. He's like, he said 90% of problems come from not communicating. So if we just are all talking with each other and just letting each other know, like, hey, things are getting kind of crazy, then it's totally easy. It's totally fine with everybody to just chill. Take a step back if you need to.
Yep.
No, I think that's good. That's definitely something that is, you don't know it's important until you have something that kind of starts to stress your personal life or your relationships or anything like that. This hasn't done it at all, but once you've had something like that happen in your life, you realize how important the balance is, and the freedom to be able to commit 100% to something, but also not commit, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. That was I think the single biggest thing that made MITM an attractive thing, proposition that I could, work into my life, is because of the pacing and the pyramid and the sort of the agreement we have amongst everybody that we go at the pace that works for everybody, and you can pick it up and put it down, and it's not, you're not going to band practice 3 times a week and you play a show, every other weekend. It's just literally designed for family men with careers, and that's me. So that's all of us. So I don't really get how normal people are in bands with any other agreement or any other setup. Like it makes it so hard to do anything. I guess that's why people normally in bands, that's all they can do, or they don't have, they're not in a relationship, or they don't have kids, or like a serious job career. They probably just have like a random job that they just like a shift worker that you show up, you do your job, you leave, and that's all you really care about. So you can go do what you really want to do in the evenings or when you're not at work. That is the normal like guy in a band setup.
Right.
We are not normal at all, which is great. And I don't. There has to be other bands or other people like us that exist that have sort of the same setup that we do, but I don't know about them, so I've never heard of it anywhere else.
And to reiterate as well, we've mentioned the pyramid a couple times. Probably there's a chance people are listening, and this is the only podcast episode they've listened to. Just really quickly, we as a band, we think of things kind of like the food pyramid, which don't get me started on the food pyramid. But as far as like the pyramid of life and priorities for us, we kind of establish like the band is the thing that comes on top of these other things. So there's other things that have to be there that are foundational and building blocks, and they have to kind of be in order to be able to do the band. And so if any of those fall out of order, fall out of whack, the band has to, or at least that member's contributions to the band, they really need to press pause and step back a little bit to fix those. So like every time we explain it, it's a little bit different, but the big idea is like the family is like one of the big ones at the bottom, and career is one of the big ones at the bottom. Like you got to have shalom in the home, as Aaron used to say a lot. Peace with your lady, peace with your kids. Make sure that you're being a good dad and husband before you go do this, because if the band makes you a bad husband or a bad father, then that's really not good, especially the whole happy wife happy life thing. Like if your lady's not on board, then it won't work. And then same with career, it's like stability in a job and being able to financially take care of yourself and your family and all that stuff. All that has to be there. And if it's in flux, then you can't. It's kind of like that with everything. If those things are in flux, you can't be a stable person to be in a band, or even friendship wise, like that. You got to have that stuff in order to be dependable as a person. So that's kind of the big idea, is like we think about that pyramid and we try to keep those things lined up. And that's anytime we refer to the pyramid, that's kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. I was thinking about that the other day too. I think I was talking, it wasn't with Ian, I was talking about this concept with somebody else, and I said, and it dawned on me as I was talking about it, the band now is like, because everything else has to be in line, and then you devote to the time to the band at the top, the band is like an incentive for me to keep everything in my life in order.
That's a cool way
that
of thinking
I can
of it.
devote time to the band. It is. It's like an incentive. It's like, I gotta make sure I get the family time in this week. I gotta make sure that I do my focus on the job this week, so that I can not worry about it, and it's good, so that I can do band stuff if I have energy for it. So now I'm actually turning more to this year is going to be a focus on my physical and spiritual health. We'll talk about this on the canoe trip a little bit more, but this year I need to get back in shape and on a good physical routine. That is my biggest limiting factor at this point, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I want to focus on. So my pyramid isn't all screwed up to where I can't devote time to the band, but that's the piece of it that I need to work on this year.
And really, I think you see like you talk about the pyramid, but also the thing that I guess kind of is flawed about it is that it's not really talking about personal well-being. So maybe it needs to be like a square. You need to add.
It actually is the bottom tier in its entirety, and maybe we don't say it very clearly, but the bottom tier is your physical, spiritual, and mental health.
Oh, well then there we go.
It's the whole,
we need
the
a diagram, I feel like.
Yes, we do.
We might.
I think Dustin drew it up at one point. He made a graphic of it. It got lost in the whatever.
Yeah, I made a few graphics. That it would be cool to do that again. I made another one to to get us on the same page about like what pace the band is moving at, and I interpret it in my mind as like what gear are we in, and so I made this little like infograph type thing because I was
good.
bored at school.
It was like, seriously, it was like seriously out of like a corporate presentation. It was legit.
But it
like a Gantt chart.
But
it kind of.
it gives us a good vernacular though, because it was, we were trying to. There can be a lot of conflict if some of us are wanting to play a bunch of shows, or at the same time that some of us are wanting to record a bunch of songs. Those can be at odds with each other, and so we need to be on the same page about what gear we're in, especially like if one of us has a new baby that's just born. Like, okay, we might need to shift into a different gear because we can't be just going. So yeah, there's little details in there. It's nerdy. It's like, playing 3 to 5 shows a year, recording 2 songs a year or something like that, and it changes for each gear. Oh, the other thing I was going to say with the pyramid, I think there's like the big areas that we all kind of, family, career, that kind of stuff. But I also think that it's each person has their own unique pyramid type thing. And so there's Aaron has
everybody's pyramid's a little different.
Yeah, Aaron has he thinks in his mind, he calls it the F me list, because it's the list of things that if you don't do every day, you're just effing yourself over. And it's like waking up at 5 a.m., working out, hydrating, all the things that you need to proactively do to keep yourself right, firing on all cylinders. And so I think, the pyramid is kind of like that. You've got the big ideas that we all kind of share, but then there's these other things that like I know that my mental health goes way down when I'm not working out. So working out is a part of my pyramid because I know what it does to my mental health. So that's just interesting.
Yeah, the overall pyramid is the same, but everybody's specific pyramids maybe are balanced a little differently. Like the tiers take more work or more time than others for different people. So for me, the physical, mental, spiritual health, that I have not devoted as much time to over the last year or so as I should have. Where career and family, I've spent more time on that in the past year. So maybe I need to shift things around a little bit for right now. Rebalance the portfolio.
All work and no play makes Joe a dull boy.
It does. Yes, it does. That's another thing. It is so true. I always thought about that. And it was like, yeah, okay, whatever. But yeah, if you don't do anything that you enjoy on a regular basis, man, life sucks. Like, it's awful. You got to play. Everybody, not just kids have to play. Everybody has to play. And I know that looks different for everybody because you all, going for a walk could be play for you. Like, I don't know, but you got to do something that you just enjoy or that you're just curious about. You just mess around with something.
Yeah.
That's so good for your brain.
Leisure.
Yes, exactly.
So, weird transition because it's not really related to what we're talking about, but in the past, Ian, we've done one podcast episode for each band member where we kind of talk more biographical, and it's more about like musical stuff. And so I think this would be cool to do with you since we've kind of introduced you to everybody as well. If anybody's ever interested, they see us at a show and they're like, hey, that Ian guy, man, he's just really cool. I want to get to know more about him. They can go to this podcast episode and find out what. So, I guess let's just do it. You don't have to talk like a whole. We'll just ask you questions and stuff. But like, one of the things we talked about in all the other episodes is like where do you remember music first beginning for you? Like where did it, if you can remember, like when did it grab you? When did you think I might want to maybe do this or maybe play some music or something?
So, I think it was back. I might be wrong on this, but like 4th or 5th grade, I think one of my buddies his parents got him a trumpet. And I was like, I thought band people were nerds. Like, that's not cool. And suddenly, I think it was like 2 months later, I was renting a trumpet and I wanted to join the band. However, found out that I was not passionate about the trumpet. I think maybe it was like 2006. I went to this local music store in Sandusky with my parents and got I think it was an Ibanez, like basic starter kit. Came with this little tiny amp, really thin guitar cable and a Ibanez 6 string, and started taking lessons and really enjoyed it. Dropped it for a while. I think there was some disagreement between my parents and the instructor at some point. I might be wrong. Might have showed up smelling like a little bit of weed. I don't know if that's accurate.
He
For
was
some reason,
he was
I
teaching.
didn't know at the time, but when I went back into that same music store about 5 or 6 years ago, the same guy was still there, and I'm like, that's definitely what that was. Now it all makes sense. It all
No,
makes
it's
sense.
he was teaching you Mudvayne, and they wanted you to learn Rush. That's what it
Yeah,
was.
exactly, exactly.
He was
Um,
teaching him Doobie Brothers and Grateful Dead. That's what he was
yeah.
doing.
My parents would come to watch in the back room, and it would just be like a cloud of smoke. Couldn't even see me back there. Um, but no, I got exposure to some really good music at a young age. My dad grew up, or not grew up, but brought me up listening to Jethro Tull. And I think the first time I saw them perform before they kind of broke up originally was like I was like 8 or something like that. So um, immediately just diving right into some progressive rock. I didn't really appreciate it back then, but I sure as hell do now. Um, Trying to think, like the time that it actually started to guitar specifically captivate me was when I started listening to Iron Maiden.
Mm.
Um, and just the harmonies and like how intricate and how good. Yeah, exactly. Joe's got it. Um, and I was lucky enough to have a buddy who I was really close with. He was actually my roommate in college, who also loved metal music, and so we would play together all the time. Wasn't There was never any real structure to any of my practicing after that those original lessons fell out, which I kind of wish I had gotten back into it sooner. So a lot of the stuff is all self-taught, which means you learn bad habits, you have to break the bad habits, and then you learn more bad habits, and you have to break those. But all of that's kind of gotten me to where I am now, and now I have an appreciation for a lot of different music. But um, I guess I'm in a metal band, so I play metal.
Did
What were more specifically expand on? So you mentioned just Jethro Tull and Iron Maiden as being like a first like sort of key influences or bands that you remember really like lashing onto. What are some other like key bands or would say that are your big influences or your favorites?
I would say like obviously like you got your Iron Maiden, but Metallica. It's hard not to just look at their catalog of work and just have your jaw drop. Um, some like less heavy stuff. I really like The Cure. I think Robert Smith is a amazing, um, amazing songwriter, and it just there's just a way that he writes music that elicits emotion, which I think is the on the most core level is like what you try to do when you write music is to cause people to feel something, you know. Um, what else is there? I had another one on the tip of my tongue, but it just dropped off. Um,
The Cure is a
no,
band I found later, and that's
mm,
I wouldn't say that's like one of my favorites or like a key influence or anything like that. But I think that being a key influence of yours adds a new flavor
mm-hmm,
to the MITM chili, as we like to call it, because we all come from relatively the same vein of musical taste, but it's all
mm-hmm,
different. Um, that's a new flavor for us. So if you like and write songs and like the textures and things like that of The Cure, that's a new thing because that's not one of my influences, nor is it Dustin or
mm-hmm.
Aaron's. So I'm really excited to see if you bring any of that stuff into our music as we write new stuff.
Bring a little
I'm
goth rock.
Exactly, exactly. So my non-heavy side really comes from like church music, like worship music and like
Mm-hmm,
Hillsong and all that stuff like that, really like ambient, spacey stuff. So I bring that element for sure, but like The Cure and even like so I'd compare my influence when it comes to that stuff is more like you two, like the edge.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
where what I bring to the non-heavy side of things. And you coming from the Cure, that's again, it's a new thing. It's a new
yeah.
element. Love it.
Did you say that you had a friend that you played guitar with back then?
Yep, yep.
When you would jam with him, did you guys ever talk about starting a band, or was it just fun to just play?
Both of us were very self-deprecating to the point of like we could never be in a band. Like, you know what I mean? So we never even thought about it. I think he recorded a few tracks, and I think at one point had him online. Um, he leaned more towards like the lead stuff and everything like that. He was big into Steve Vai, Joe Satriani. You can imagine Dweezil Zappa, Frank Zappa, all that kind of music. But no, he actually had a version of, I think it's called Guitar Pro, and since neither of us were very good theory type guitarists, you could just have the tabs play along with you, and we would just lay the two tracks down and just mute them and play along. Um, and as long as the tablature was out there, you could download it, load it into Guitar Pro, and click play, and it just went.
That's cool.
Um, a lot of it was quite messy. We had minimal knowledge of guitar effects, so I mean, we're talking Line 6, Spider, Insane Mode, cranked
Yeah,
up the reverb. Not the best, but we definitely made some noise.
that was one of my I played I played guitar first. I think you knew that already. I'm a guitar player who plays bass, but I'm getting there. But that was my big amp that I was really proud of. Was I had a Line 6 Flextone 3, and it
Mm.
was given to me by the youth pastor at the time, and I remember that was like it was like game changing because I watched him. I grew up watching him play that amp and all the different sounds you could do with it, and I thought that was just so cool. So yeah, Line 6.
Line 6 Spider amp and like all those amps are underappreciated.
Mm,
For someone who's starting out, like the it's right at the correct price point to allow you to get in there and get some a small variety of tones out of that the modeler on there. Um, but it definitely leaves you wanting more.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a good point. Like those amps, they get so much hate because yeah, you look back, I look at it back then, I'm like, ooh, yeah, they don't sound that great. And I had a slight variation on that, so I didn't have a Line 6. I had a PV Viper. That was another common like modeling amp back then. That was basically in the same vein though. It's the same price point, same idea.
Hmm.
So I thought I was a little cooler because I had a PV Viper instead of a Line 6 Spider. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. But you're right. That is where myself and millions of other people got their start, like figuring out how to make your guitar sound good or different or whatever. um
Hmm.
you're right, it opened up that, like, broadened many people's horizons. That was everybody's, most people's intro into being able to make your guitar sound cool.
I've heard
Yeah.
Vince say that he had it too.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure,
That's
yeah.
funny.
Hmm. I
A
still
lot of
have
people
mine
talk
too.
about
I've toyed around with getting rid of it over the years, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna hang on to it.
It'll
It's in
come
my
back.
basement still too. I still have
I'll
it.
probably never play it again, but
Yeah,
Dude, it's
be a nice
it's
coffee table.
yeah.
it's funny. I'm the opposite. Like when you were saying that you didn't think you and him were good enough to start a band. I was like, I don't know if I thought that I was better than I was, but like my eyes were so on like way up in the clouds about like I'm learning this Reliant K song right now because I'm going to start a band and that's going to be my career. Like I was so focused on that from like
Mhm.
11 years old. Um, and it drove me and it made me learn a lot very fast because it all had a purpose. And it also made me miserable because I live out here in a rural area where there's like everybody listens to country music and nobody plays music. And so I couldn't start a band, and I was sad a lot. I complained to my parents a lot about it because I was like, "Why do we gotta live in this county?" And yeah, and even now I find I try to be careful and kind of search what I'm doing because I feel like I play music for a purpose, and I struggle sometimes to play music just to enjoy it. And so it's kind of like I'm playing it because I need to write this song. I'm playing it because I need to do this thing for the band, rather than just enjoying the music itself. So that's interesting.
Yeah, that would have to be hard, to have the desire and have the willingness to put in the time, and then not having an avenue to reap any rewards from it. That's challenging.
we definitely um we definitely did that. I forced it to happen, you know, when you do some really cringy stuff so that you can have a band or whatever. I was able to convince, and I don't tell many people about this, but I was in ninth grade, and I was able to convince two seniors at my school, a junior at my school, and then me on guitar and singing, and then my sixth grade brother was playing drums, and we did like a rock band type thing, and we called ourselves Radical Disciple because we were a Christian
Nice.
rock band, and Radical sounded cool, and Disciple was already taken. And it was it was
Got that.
it was really cringy, like really 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 bad, and I still have a demo somewhere. But that was me, like,
Nice.
hey, here we are in Hardin County, man, like I'll take everybody from my little school and we'll make it happen.
Nice. Nice. I did something, well, not similar, but kind of. So my first experience with being in a band was basically right as I started playing guitar. So I got an acoustic guitar. My mom had this old acoustic guitar. I started playing that. I started taking lessons for a few months, and then my parents got me my first electric guitar for Christmas that year. And I got that guitar, had it for about a week, and then my youth pastor gave me a call one day and was like, "Hey, we're basically like completely reforming our youth group like worship team, and I know you play guitar." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I just started, but okay." And he's like, "Yeah, I want would you want to like play guitar in the band?" I'm like, "Sure." I have no idea what I'm doing, but okay. So I literally, as soon as I got an electric guitar, I was in a band, and I just trial by fire, like
Yeah.
figured out.
Boom.
I wasn't good. Like I could barely play like the chords in time. But looking back, that was like super good for me to actually start applying it for real, like right away. So that was cool. That's a little bit different from Ian's story, and
Yeah.
it's kind of strange. It kind of goes two ways because I was always playing music in church, so playing in time with people, playing your guitar in tune in time, you know, trying to complement work two guitar parts together. And that was another thing that it took me some time because the other guys, we actually had three guitars in our worship team. We had an acoustic guitarist, we had another electric guitarist who he was supposed to be lead guitar, but he never played like leads. He just played chords. So I would eventually just start like, well, I could just figure out a melody. Like I can figure a few notes that sound good with this song. So I'll just figure something out and that'll be that. So I pretty much like just like strong armed or whatever, snuck my way into the lead guitar position after a few months. And nobody ever like said or did anything. And I practiced way more than the other dude did. And so I just ended up being the lead guitarist after a little while. And that's the way it stayed for years.
You
We were
usurped the
called.
position.
I did. I did. I overthrew him. I overthrew him sneakily. Um, but so I was always active on that side of things with church. But as far as like playing heavy music, I also love that stuff and was learning that stuff at the same time at home. But I never like did anything with that. So I would every once in a while there'd be a person in my life that I would jam with, like maybe another guitarist or a vocalist or something like that. But this is before like really like home recording technology was super accessible. And I certainly didn't know how to use it, and I didn't like put forth the effort to try to learn how to use it. So I just never recorded or did anything, and ended up really networking with anybody. And then I started college, and then I started my career. I got married, and life took off, and I just never like really put forth much effort to do anything with heavy music. So active in church, keeping my skills honed there, keeping me somewhat sharp and in the groove. But the metal guitar skills never had a use until MITM. So that's kind of what that's sort of a parallel with you, Ian. You've been playing in your bedroom, in your basement for years, not actually doing anything with it, but then
Yep.
this opportunity shows up. So
Yeah.
and out of nowhere. And yeah, so let's talk about that, how all this went down. So like I said, I work with Ian. We've worked together at the same company for the last 5.5 years now already.
Mhm.
But we never even really spoke to each other until like a year ago. And then uh, I invited him to come to a Trivium Bullet for My Valentine 20th anniversary concert tour that they were doing. We just went to that less than a month ago.
Mhm.
But that was like 9 months ago that I'm like, hey, I know you like this stuff. So like, do you want to come to a concert? Little did I know that 9 months later, we'd be in a band together.
Yeah.
So Vince, back in January, Vince announced that he didn't want to, practice with us and be active anymore. So I let it go by for a few months just to, figure out where we were going to go from here. And then the band guys talked, us in the band, everybody in the band talked and decided that, all right, we will passively, if the right person comes up, we want to add a rhythm guitarist. So I just started thinking about who I knew, and we tried out one guy actually right before Ian. He was a great personality fit, but it's just nothing that he could handle at the time. He didn't have the commitment or the time or the capacity in his life to devote to it. Another friend of mine. But when that dropped off, Ian was the next guy I could think of. So I asked him if he wanted to potentially, if there was a chance, if there happened to be an opening in the band that I was in, would you be interested in at least trying out for it? So
Yeah, you're super coy about it at the beginning.
yeah, yeah.
He's fishing.
You were like, so we might have an opening. We might not. We might. But if we did, would you be interested? Or would you not? And I think I immediately, the first thing I said was like, dude, you're asking the wrong guy.
Yeah.
You don't think I can handle this, right?
Well, I knew there was a chance that you could, so that's why I just like sort of put the ball in your court a little bit to see if that was something you'd even entertain. Because that's the thing, is like ability and desire are two very different things, and you have to have both to really be good at anything or really really do anything. So I wasn't sure. I'd never played with you, so I had no idea about your abilities. But if the desire wasn't there, there's no chance. So I was prodding for the desire at that point.
And the desire has been burning forever. But as I said before, I think I wrote it off 15 years ago. Like, I'm never going to be good enough for something like that. Which is kind of a shame to shut yourself down without even ever trying. You know what I mean?
Right.
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 But I remember saying, you know what? I'll listen to I had already listened to all of MITM's music, because I think back when we had the original discussion, you showed me the band, and I think I listened through all the songs. But I was like, I'll listen through all the songs, and I'll let you know what I think. I'll see if I can start learning and see what happens. I think at that point we had a tentative month and a half to 2 month timeline on like when I would come to practice to try out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a week later we went to a show together at Frankie's, and then a week after that you're like, hey, you should come to practice. 2 months early.
Well, that was because you gelled so well with the group, and everyone, you got along with us so well. So we were just like, yeah, this guy's cool. Like, pull him in. Let's go.
Because like we said before, we've been sitting around, like 6 months goes by before we take these steps. So when we meet somebody and we have that good feeling, we're like, all right, that's all we need. Let's get it going.
Yeah. And I was super nervous going to that first practice, but I think you guys were super patient, and to be honest with you, like from a full song perspective, I had mainly in my time playing guitar had just focused on the sections or the parts that I loved the most out of songs, because there was never a reason for me to learn the full song. I wasn't performing, so I'd be like, oh, that riff sounds cool, I'm gonna learn that riff, or that solo sounds cool, I'm gonna learn that solo. But actually taking a structured approach and I think learning those 7 songs, like I kind of astounded myself that I was able to do it in the period of time that I did.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, I put a lot of time into it, um, but it felt good to actually make some real progress as a guitarist for the first time in I feel like a decade.
Yeah, it's one thing I will say about Ian is he dives right in. He gets after it. You
Mm-hmm.
you you totally learned those songs faster than I did. Um, Back when I joined the band a year and a half ago. So making me look bad, man. Come on,
No,
give me. Now I have a rival for somebody who's has the ability to learn possibly faster than I do. So which is already, I feel like I'm just a little tistic in that way. So good job.
are you saying I'm a lot tistic?
For sure.
Okay, I got it.
That's your whatever superpower.
Right.
But to be honest though, you probably just worked harder than I did when you were learning. You probably you were just way more obsessive about it. I was like, all right, there's not a show for another 3 months. I'm gonna do this because I love doing it, and I put plenty of time into it. But I think you just lit a fire under yourself that burned way hotter than
Mhm.
than I did back when I joined. So but you were like ready. You were show ready in like 2 months,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
less than 2 months.
The one thing the I hate underperforming, but I really hate disappointing people. And I think whenever and this goes beyond the band, whenever someone puts their faith in you, even if you guys didn't put your faith in me, if you just were just giving me a shot, I think I immediately felt the urgency to get up to speed no matter what it took. And I my wife and I, we don't have any kids, we have a dog. So if there's anyone out of the group that has had the time to be able to put over the last couple months, it was me. Um, Not saying that made it like super easy or anything like that. There were a lot of nights where we had things going after work, and I was staying up till 1 a.m. and I didn't even realize it. But I'm playing through the songs for 3 straight hours, and my fingers hurt, and start getting some carpal tunnel in my left wrist, and I have to take a week off. Um, but yeah, it was a lot of fun actually having a reason to to put in a lot of effort into learning songs and getting cleaner and um, no, it's been great.
That's another thing that I'll say about Ian too is not that I don't know how many people listening to this would actually know me that well to know how I am, but I'm pretty meticulous when it comes to music and guitar especially. I've been critiquing and honing my skills, critiquing myself for the last 18 years that I've been playing guitar, and technique and playing clean and things like that are really things that are really important to me. And just because of my personality, I tend to be pretty critical. Um, I so when he and I first got together to start playing through the songs, he you know he, he wasn't where I was at as far as technical ability, but I barely had to like correct him or anything, or I would say something one time, and then like the next time we jammed, or even actually before the end of the jam session, he had already like sort of started to fix it. So Ian's very good at like attention to detail, and like you tell him something once and then it's just like never a problem again. At least that's what I've seen so far. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the other stuff, you showed up the next time we played, or you told me like, yeah, I'm working on this, I got this down, I got it. I could tell you just listen closely and like just do it. Like I don't have to tell you like, you need to listen to that a little bit, a little bit better, a little bit harder, and just really hone in. Like you just do it. Like
Mm.
it was a super easy process for me getting you on board, and I was fully willing to, spend a bunch of time and work with you to get you up to speed, but I didn't need to.
Yeah, I guess that's good to hear because I guess it'd be interesting to be inside of your head when we had that first jam session. I know it was pretty rough.
But that's the thing is I expected that.
Yeah,
I set a low bar, and you were above the bar, and then it just got better.
yeah,
I think what you said earlier, Ian, is pretty cool because I'm similar. You don't like to disappoint people, and
mm,
I'm the same way. I think I take it to an extreme and it's kind of harmful, but I try to harness it. So like I don't want to let people down ever. Like it's a huge it is like compulsive to me, and so sometimes I use it for my own good. Like when I was trying to wake up at 5 a.m. every day, I would tell AC like I'll be up, I'll be there tomorrow 5 a.m. And because I didn't want to let him down, I was so consistent. I was so like I was always awake. But if it was just me to myself, I would just, hit snooze or whatever. But because I didn't want to disappoint him, I would do that. And it was the same with just all these other things. Like I learned that Mudvayne song on bass because I knew we were going to be playing it at the next practice, and I knew Aaron. I know how much he loves them. I know how much he knows the bass part. So I was committed, like going after it. And it's always with other people. So it's a cool driver.
Yeah, no, it is super motivational, and I think it's like you like getting positive responses out of people. I remember growing up, I always liked to go shovel people's driveways just to like see the smile on their face. Like they just, I don't know. It's not necessarily from a people pleasing perspective, but just feels good to, I guess, reward people's faith in you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It just
do something that provides somebody value. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do something that somebody enjoys, that somebody gives somebody happiness.
And it's just a benefit that me playing through, I loved playing through those songs. I'm still not tired of playing through those songs. I'm still probably playing through the set list once a day, just because like I don't know, it's just it's fun. And I'm now after we've moved into more, I guess, writing and recording mode, I'm allowing myself the freedom to play some other music too, which has been nice. So I'm breaking out the 6-string that's not tuned to drop C, playing some Cure music, playing some, I guess, some simple, slower songs too. But I think this is definitely the period of time where I've played the most guitar, definitely in my whole life.
It's cool. It sounds like you're ready to create, because like you're now past the point of like learning the pre-written material. Now you're like, okay, I got that. Now I'm going to start playing these other songs that I enjoy, because you're kind of getting those creative elements going in your brain. So it's going to be cool when we get together, because you're going to start to pull that stuff and put it in there.
For sure. I think the cool thing about learning the set list, it's a good diverse sample from MITM's catalog, and I think it playing through it and really like listen. I listen to those songs on the car ride to work, on the car ride back from work, probably during work a lot of days, because I wanted to internalize it and understand like the songwriting process. Now I think you could drop me in the middle of any of those songs and I could start playing within a second or two. You know what I mean? But I understand the sound, even though it's not consistent across all the songs. I understand like kind of how the songs are written, and I think once we start getting to the point where we're through a couple of the songs that are in our backlog and start working on some new stuff, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm really curious. That's one of the things that I like the most about being in a band, is the shared creativity with somebody else, because Vince wrote stuff that I would have never written. My brain doesn't work like that, and I added stuff to his songs that he would have never thought of. And that's where the magic happens. So I'm excited to do that same thing with you, because to be honest, I haven't really seen any of what you've written or what your brain thinks up on its own. So I'm excited to see that. And I think we'll pair well together. You're more of a rhythm guitarist, I'm more of a lead guitarist, and that's a good thing. And that's how Vince and I were too. And that's magic happens. All my favorite bands, all my favorite bands really, have like the 2 guitar combos, like Avenged Sevenfold, Zach EV and Sinister Gates, Trivium, Matt and Corey, Matt and Padge from Valentine. All my favorite like bands have like 2 guitarists that work together closely, and they both have their strengths and their abilities, and they mesh them together, and it creates magic. So I always the two guitar band, especially if you're playing heavy music, is the way to go.
Hmm.
And Ian was just telling me earlier too that he's been practicing all the leads because he's trying to usurp your role as well. So
Nice, go for it, dude.
Dude, you weren't
I dare
supposed to
you.
tell him that.
I dare,
Scratch
I
that
dare you.
part. Scratch that part.
Hey man, you're keeping me sharp. You gotta you're whetting my edge. Like
Yeah.
you're just making me better. That's what I want. That's what I want.
Oh,
hey,
And I'm doing the same for you.
so
Pulling you along. All right, let's do this.
should we
You need to get that cleaner.
yeah.
should we end this kind of with a band update? We probably should have done that more at the beginning. I mean, we kind of talked about it, but just kind of an overview of like where we're at, what we're trying to do, and all that kind of stuff. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sure. You go for it, and then
Okay.
I'll end it up.
So
End it out.
I talked earlier about my infograph where we're trying to figure out what gear we're in. We've still been kind of working through that, but largely we consider ourselves, are we in show mode or are we in recording mode? And we're trying to settle ourselves into a little of both, to where we're ready to play shows because we like playing shows, but we're also continuing to write songs in the background. And so because we've been trying to find these members to be able to play live, we've been in mostly recording mode. And so we have a lot of songs that are lined up right now. I mean, there's 4 or 5 songs in the pipeline that are just like ready to go. And things are now being done at a much quicker pace, so we can finally start to release a song instead of like once a year. We might have quite a few coming out in 1 year, which is awesome, because that's what a lot of us get out of this. But we are close to being able to play shows. So I would say we're still kind of in song recording mode right now, but we have Ian, since you've joined us, like you're ready to go on, playing our set live. So now we're just working with our drummer, getting him up to snuff and healthy so that we can play a live show. But yeah, so I guess I would say we're in recording mode still. We're hoping to crank more and more songs out because that's really our reward, what feels good to us. But we're hoping to be able to play a show in October, and because we have it in the books right now, we're just hoping that we're going to be able to continue and do that and everything, and hopefully have more in the future. Does that sound right?
That's right. And even more specific. Yeah, no, that's right. And more specifically on the songs recording process. So we put out The Victim in February. We put out Blood is Overrated back in September. So that's a song about every 5-6 months. I also anticipate us moving a lot faster than that, at least over the next year or so. Ian and I finished tracking guitars for our next song a few weeks ago. Drums already done, and all the vocals are written. We just have to record them. So I envision our next song's called Obituary, and it will come together pretty quickly. And I envisioned having that out sometime this summer.
Yeah, definitely.
And maybe even early summer. And that'd be awesome. And then our 2 songs after that, I envision coming out pretty much right after that. Like maybe even if we all, if the stars align and we all get our stuff in order, we might even do like it could even be like 1 song a month for 3 months straight.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is possible at the pace that we are going. So basically our recording situation has set up, and this might be interesting to let people know and just look back on this for ourselves. A recording process used to be Vince is our engineer, sound engineer, producer, so he would have a direct part in all of the tracking for every single instrument. So we would record drums, and then he would edit them, put them together, and then Dustin would go over his house and record bass. He would record rhythm guitars himself, put that in the mix, and then he would cover my house. We would track all the lead guitars, and then he'd take that back. So he'd just vary one piece at a time, and it would require a significant part of his day, a different day, for every single piece of the recording process. Well, we changed that on The Victim. We recorded The Victim at Dustin's house, and then Dustin edited the drums and cleaned them up so that they were in a pretty easily, usable state for Vince to do his magic in. We did track guitars the same way that we did for Blood is Overrated and before, where Vince came over and did we recorded at my house, and then he took the stems and edited them and brought it all together. And then the guys knocked out all the vocals in one day. That is the last, I guess, remnant. That's the last time the old method will be used for Obituary. We're pretty much piecing it all together without Vince, and we just send him sort of the final products of each piece. He puts them all together and does works his magic on it, and then the songs are done. So Obituary, I tracked all the guitars. Ian came over and ran the DAW for me, but I tracked all the guitars for Obituary at my house basically in one day.
Mm-hmm.
So Vince has all that now, and he's working on it. We did the same thing with drums. We tracked him at Dustin's house. Dustin cleaned him up, and we sent him to Vince. We're going to do the same. He's going to do the same thing with bass, and then they're all Dustin and Aaron are going to go to Vince's and record the vocals there, and knock it all out in one session, and then the song will be done. So, because we are taking, I guess, more ownership over the recording of our own instruments, it makes things be able to progress a lot faster, as long as Vince has the capacity to do the sound engineer work on the back end of things.
Mm-hmm.
So the song after that is going to be called The Proletariat. Guitars I'm already a third of the way through the song. Ian and I are going to finish them up tomorrow. So, and drums are done already. So we're going to do the same thing right behind Obituary. And then the one after that, the drums are done. And I'm ready to record guitars. So we're just going to keep cranking out these songs that we've been working on for the past 6-9 months and get them out. And there's talk of maybe releasing them along with the couple that we've already released over the last year as an EP, and that will be sort of EP or album 2. Aaron likes to call them albums, so that's we can call that to make him happy.
Mm-hmm.
But that'll be the next chapter of MITM. Sort of it's been a very odd chapter of the last year and a half. I joined the band, and then things changed significantly, and we've dealt with all different kinds of interesting things that we didn't see coming, and we've had to navigate many challenges together, but we wrote and recorded these songs during that time. So I personally am going to view that as a very memorable sort of piece of work when it's done, and it will remind me of that time.
It'd be cool if we could like as you're saying that, I was thinking how we could go back and listen to these podcast episodes. We could rewatch the live streams. We could access all of the content that we produced during that era and kind of remember, like, oh yeah, that's what that was like. It'd be cool
That's
if we
where we were when that happened.
Yeah, it'd be cool if we had
at.
like a vernacular or a label or something, where, because like we already kind of feel in our gut that once this batch of songs is released and we release it as the EP, that's kind of stamping the end of that era. And we don't know what the name for that era is yet, because we've been talking about it. But, you know, that was as Vince transitions into what he's doing now and all that kind of stuff. So we know we're going into a new era. So it'd be cool if it was almost like season 3, you know? And like when we when we put out the podcast episodes after that EP, you know, we have a way of knowing, oh yeah, this is the beginning of that new era, where now it's this way.
Right, for sure. We kind of had the same thing with podcasts last year too. You were doing them for a while, and then they kind of stopped. And then when I joined, I was like, "Hey, Dustin, that podcast stuff's pretty cool. We should do more of those." And we did a run through the spring and the summer of last year. That was sort of season 2 of the podcast. I view this as the first chapter of season 3 of the podcast, I guess, if you could say. But no, because we're going to line it up with the albums. So this is still the end of season 2. The end of season 2.
It's like season 2, episode 10. It's like
where they split. It's like the season 2, but they split them in half and release them like some time apart.
Yeah,
like that.
And that is a good point too. The podcast is a way of documenting it. I mean, we talk about what we're thinking and feeling at that time. So yeah, I always do this, but it'd be cool to start doing this again more regularly, just so we can record it.
Exactly. At least every couple months, just to check in and be like, oh yeah, this is what we've done over the past couple months, and this is where we're at with our lives and what we're working on. So yeah, that's, I think half, maybe even over half of what I see, like the value of doing this is just for us to look back at.
Yeah.
And remember, because dude, besides like from pictures on my phone, like in my Google Drive, like, dude, and like major life stuff, like I don't remember like specifically what I had going on, over the years. I don't remember. and I want to remember this because it's fun and I love it. So
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's a reason that we could, like our last band meeting, I recorded it secretly. But I'm not
nice.
I'm not publishing it or anything, but like that would be
That was a good one.
that would be a good
That was a
reason
good
to
one.
like record them and then have them stored, even if they're like on, maybe if they're uploaded to YouTube but private so nobody can see it. That way it's archived for us. That'd be cool.
I gotta stop saying all those bad words and talking about all those inappropriate subjects and telling you guys are terrible, just verbally and emotionally abusing you guys so much. I don't want that stuff released.
Well, Dustin has blackmail on you now, so that's good.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. No, ooh, yep. Leak it. He's gonna Me Too me.
Oh man. Well, this was
Nice.
good. We got anything else to cover?
No, I think we covered it.
It's good. All right. Well, until next time, everybody. This has been the MITM podcast. Welcome, Ian.
Thanks, everyone.